Welcome to the Ignited Entrepreneurs Podcast, where each week I will chat with an amazing entrepreneur who has figured out their secret sauce to running a successful business and share all of that juicy goodness to help you find your secret sauce to take your next quantum leap in your business. This week's episode is brought to you by the Speakers Club calendar. Are you a professional public speaker looking for companies who want to hire you? The Speakers Club calendar is an invaluable resource to put you in direct contact with the right people for the right events at the right time. No more endless hours of searching for events. The Speakers Club calendar brings it all to you in one place at exactly the right time. Each month, the Speakers Club calendar releases the next batch of listings, complete with everything you will need to be first in line to apply directly to the decision makers. To check out this amazing resource, look for the link in the show notes. All right, welcome back to another episode of the Ignited Entrepreneurs Podcast. Today, I am really excited to have an amazing lady named Tracey Ehman with us. Tracey, welcome to the show.
Thanks so much for having me, Jess.
Thank you so much for agreeing to do this. And I'm really excited. You and I have been both involved in a couple of projects along the way. So it was a no-brainer to me when I wanted to bring on amazing entrepreneurs to make sure that I asked you. So I already know a little bit about what you do, but can you tell our audience who you are and what you do?
I would love to. So I am an online presence and social media strategist. I work with businesses in a variety of stages of their growth to expand their online presence and be found by their ideal audience. In some cases, helping them find out who their ideal audience is.
Oh, I love it. And you know what I really love is it's very timely because, a lot of the people that this podcast will be marketed to would be people that are at that stage where they want to take that next step and up-level their business, and SEO and marketing strategy and all that is like foreign to a lot of us that are solopreneurs. So to have somebody like you that can sort of explain that and just lay it all out and help us understand just how important it really is. So I'm really excited to have you on the show just for that purpose alone. So
I appreciate that. Yes, it's interesting because sometimes we get all this terminology thrown our way and there's too much coming at us. And quite honestly, it's not what a lot of people love doing. They're heart-centered. They want to be helping people. They want to be coaching. They want to be, supporting others, but doing, that stuff is just like, over their head and,
I do know, actually. There is so much to it. And I mean, a lot of it can be really fun, but I totally agree with you. Like, we get into our businesses to do what our business is, not to run the business, right?
Yes, exactly. But, we need to still be earning money. It's like, I had a conversation earlier today with someone and, yes, we do it because we want to help and we want to support people, but we want to make an income as well. I mean, we want to combine all of that together.
Yes. I actually mentioned it on my last podcast because it's something that I had just started to consider for my own business is, is it a hobby or is it a business? Because you have to approach it two very different ways. And until you're prepared to make it a business, it's likely to just kind of stay a hobby, right?
Exactly.
Yeah. So tell us about what it is that you have that you can offer to, say, potential clients or people who are, looking to change over from that, say, a hobby to the actual business that's going to sustain them and create a lifestyle for them. So what would you be able to offer somebody at that point?
Well, there's a couple things. I mean, one thing that they can do is grab, I have a free report called Keyword Marketing Secrets.
Okay.
I have a free report called Keyword Marketing Secrets. If you go keywordmarketingsecrets.com, you can grab that report, and it actually helps you determine, where to use keywords, where you can find them. It's just a really good sort of an overview of some of the things that you might not have even thought about and why people maybe aren't coming to your website or are not responding to that beautiful website or that an amazing offer that you have. And they just don't know it's there, right?
Right.
So some
So,
great ideas there.
yeah, so for those of us who, may or may not be all that savvy with the lingo, what's a keyword?
See? Well, a keyword, you know, we're going to make this easy. When you are searching, you're searching on your phone, you're searching on your computer, you go into Google and you're looking for information, you are
Mhm.
putting in keywords. Ultimately,
Oh,
they're
okay.
search terms, and it can be, one word, it can be a small combination. But if you are looking for, if you're trying to attract a certain audience, they're maybe dealing with some kind of concern. Um, it could be dealing with a car issue, or it could be, I'm looking for a bookkeeper in Langley, or whatever it might be. The more specific you are, the more likely you're going to get a search return that is actually going to answer your question, right? You're going to click on
Okay.
that link because it makes sense. So
Right.
the reason I bring that up is that when we're trying to attract people to our own websites and our own social media and our offers, we need to be thinking like them. We need to figure
Okay.
out what they would put into those search terms, right?
Right.
So that's really what keywords are. And it's important to have them within your website and your social media, because that's how people are searching.
Okay. So these keywords, they just need to show up in your text, like the body of your, say, a blog, or, some of
Yeah.
the copy that you put, or is there other secret places that these things hide out?
There's secret places as well. I mean, one of the things to really think about is when you're going to write a blog post, who are you trying to attract? What is that main message of that blog post? And make sure that your title is kind of succinct in that way, because that title will be one of the things that people will see.
Okay.
Um, when most of us have WordPress websites, some have others as well, but most websites will have a plugin, and an SEO plugin. And if you actually use that SEO plugin, you can actually adjust the title and you can put in a custom description. So I always suggest that people do that. Add the plugin. I use like Yoast SEO.
Mm-hmm.
And the reason you want to put in the description is that you're going to be able to give a really good summary of what it is that particular blog post is about. And
Okay.
if you don't do that, then what it's going to do is it's going to pull from the first sentence in your blog post. And sometimes we like to start with a really cute quote and then get into like the down and dirty of what we're trying to share. And
Right.
that quote is not going to tell people what it is that you're sharing. So that's why it's really
Right.
important to, incorporate keywords into your description.
Mm-hmm.
It's not, you don't want to put a ton in. It's not like you want to like overkill with keywords, but you want to be thinking in terms of, maybe different words, like a synonym that would be really relaying the same message would be good to incorporate it as well. It doesn't have to be that same keyword over and over again, so it doesn't sound like you and I are talking, right? It would be,
Right.
it's almost like a computerized version of your blog post, and you're not talking to computer, you're talking to people. You want to build those relationships, so you need to be actually writing for people as well.
Okay, interesting. So does this just work for websites, or does this work for does this work on Facebook? Does this work on Insta? Does it work on those kind of platforms as well? Or is that what hashtags are like?
Oh yeah, you know what, hashtags are really, just to make that really simple, they
Yeah.
basically are supercharged keywords.
Okay.
Because people, when you hashtag something in most of the platforms, it becomes a clickable link. And if you click on it, then you can see everybody else who's posted about that particular content. So it's a
Mhm.
great way, you think about it kind of reverse, it's a great way for you to maybe be found by people that didn't know that you were out there because they clicked on that link. So that's why hashtags are important. Keywords are important, yes, in your social media posts. One of the things that I coach people to do is, if they have a great blog post, don't just say, hey, check out my blog post. Like, put in a blurb that entices people to want to click and is touching on the keywords that they're going to find within the content once they click on it.
Ooh, I like that. See, I love cheats, little tricks that you can do that other people may not know about, right?
Yeah.
So that's why it's so great. That's why I am such a big, fan and promoter of, we need people. Like you were saying earlier, like we get into this business because we have something that we love to do. And now when you start to get to the point where you're going to run a business and you need to make money and you need to start paying attention to your own time and really maxing out your gifts and what you can give, having somebody else that's now taken all of those, say 10,000 hours to become their master at what they do, you bring them on so that you don't have to go now and learn a whole new skill that has nothing to do with what you love to do.
Yeah, that's so important, because what will happen sometimes is that when you realize, like you said, you've decided this isn't a hobby, this is a business, and you realize that if it's a business, then there's all these other things that actually have to happen.
Yeah.
You get stuck in that, and you start to lose that love that, was a reason that you started your business in the first place. So
Exactly.
yeah, definitely, working collaboratively with people is an important part of doing business as an entrepreneur.
Yeah, I agree. And, and that's the thing. That's one of the reasons that I'm really happy to be doing this kind of a podcast where, I get to go and find those people that have found their passion and they're really good at it, like yourself, and bring them to the people that may not know that, first of all, they even need it, that it even exists, and bring people together so that we can all kind of help each other out. Right. So
I love that you're doing this. It's so important for people to not feel alone when you're kind of navigating the entrepreneurial waters. And I think it's just incredible to be able to, learn from other people. I'm always learning. I mean, that's the thing, right? You have to realize you're always going to be learning, because if you're not always learning, then you're just going to not go very far.
Well, and we have to, because the world of marketing, the internet, technology keeps changing. So we have to keep up. And how do you possibly find that many hours in the day? Right. So you can't. You have to find people that already know how to do it. And that's how you save time. And even if it costs you money to hire somebody, if you think about what you could be doing with your time that would bring in money in your business, that now you're having to go and learn something that you could very easily pay somebody else to do, it becomes a no-brainer when you really do the math, right?
It does. Yes, definitely. Because, realistically, you are able to charge more for what it is that you specialize in and what you love, and the, the offerings that you have, and paying someone else to make sure that, you're seen is well worth it, because that brings in more prospects and it allows you to continue to doing what you want and charging more. And, it kind of just builds upon itself. But it's true. We need to invest in our business, because when we do, it's amazing that the spurt of activity and growth that we start to experience. And when we don't and try and do everything ourselves, it takes, you might still get there, but it sure takes a heck of a lot longer to do that.
Yes, absolutely. So I want to also talk about a couple other things that you have going on in your business. So can you tell us a little bit about Women's Speakers Association? Because this one is something that I love. I am a big fan of seeing women get on stage, well, people in general, but just like take the stage. For me, it took me many, many years to get to the point where I felt comfortable having a voice and expressing it. And this is something that I love to do now too, is get on stage. And so the fact that you are involved in an association that works to help people do that, I'd love to hear more about that.
Oh, I'd be happy to share. It's kind of one of my it's one of my loves. I mean, keywords are my love. You can tell by, the smile on my face, and you're not even seeing it. But Women Speakers Association, I was sort of brought in kind of just after the idea was born. And interestingly enough, I was asked to build out the first website. And I was doing that, maybe we'll touch on this, but I was doing that in between chemo treatments. So it's like, it wasn't my lifeline. My family was my lifeline during this. But, for me, I needed to be busy mentally when I could be, and the website and being involved in it, and just the inspiration of, really, we wanted to make sure that women can share their story, share their message with the world, get on the stages, have that support. And we once again, right, we're talking about entrepreneurs and having that support. speakers need that support as well. So Women Speakers Association was sort of born of that concept that we need to be able to share our message with the world, and we need to be able to help people actually get that done.
Yes.
And that was 9 years ago. So it's crazy. I am part of the WSA, Women Speakers Association executive team. And so we're always like, talking to our membership and figuring out new things that we can offer and new opportunities, and just providing that community so that, when you have a sounding board for things or whatever it might be.
I love it. That's awesome. I think this is one of the reasons that I was attracted to you when we first met, is because you just are such a giver. Like, I love that, you're so worried, or not worried, but your mission is to be able to help people, right? So this is just one other example of that to me. So
yeah, I do love helping people.
Yeah, I can tell. Like, you can tell somebody's energy, and I really feel that from you. So thank you for that. We need that. We need people like, yes, it's one thing. We all want to grow our businesses, and we all want to, have a lifestyle and those sort of things. But, I really believe that when you can give back and bring other people up with you along the way, that is where you actually get the fulfillment in your life. So Tracey, you kind of touched on this a little bit earlier, but I understand that you also wrote a book.
Yes, I did.
Can you tell us about that, please?
I would love to. Yes, I did allude to going through chemo. I had breast cancer 9 years ago, actually coming up 10 years ago. So this is like my decade to celebrate, my year to celebrate, and so forth.
Yeah, let's do it.
10 years this year. But what I did last year was I pulled together some incredibly inspirational stories from women who had either experienced some form of cancer, or for them, like themselves, they had cancer themselves, or someone in their family, and just sharing the stories that I know that when I was going through all of my treatment and so forth, I would always try to look at the glass as half full. And I found that if I could look at the positive aspect of things, it would pull me out of wherever I was kind of down in the doldrums, right?
Mm-hmm.
And so from that, over the years, people said, well, why don't you share your story? And I'm like, well, I don't really have a story to share, right? Like all of us, I don't really have a story. I don't know if I want to do that.
Yep.
But I did. And we have a book now called The Silver Lining of Cancer, 13 Courageous Women Share Their Inspirational Stories After a Life-Changing Diagnosis.
Oh, wow.
And it's incredible because it's on Amazon, by the way, but the reviews, especially on the .com versus .ca, like the reviews are phenomenal. The impact it's having is really what I wanted it to do, what we wanted it to do collectively. We wanted to make a difference in someone's life, maybe, make them smile. I know that when I was sitting waiting to go into chemo and I was looking at the People magazines and I didn't have any hair at that point, I really didn't want to see all the beautiful people, because that is kind of like rubbing it in my face. I would have rather picked up something where I could open a chapter, read something inspirational, because I have a firm belief that you would just open it and it would open to the place that you needed to read at that moment. Right. And yeah, so that was sort of my big thing in 2019.
Yeah.
And my goal is to get the book in waiting rooms across the world.
I love it.
So, yeah, I'm this year I'm seeking sponsors that can help me do that. And you inspired me when we talked the other day that I really need to get a podcast going as well, because I know there's so many stories out there and I would love people to be able to share them.
Oh, you know what? I think that's amazing, because I agree with you. Community is what helps us get through things, right? Is knowing that you're not alone, right? And being able to share those stories and, like you say, get some inspiration rather than, just thinking about comparing yourself to somebody else. Instead, we get that we need to be uplifted by something. We need to have some belief that, if someone else can get through this, then we can get through it, and we're not alone, and we can ask for help, and we can come together and support each other. So that's, I think you should do it if my advice means anything.
Yes, I'm going to do it.
Yeah. Awesome. Wonderful. Yay. Well, I will definitely be there to support you as much as I can in that. So
Thank you.
yeah, I'll promote it for you because I think it's beautiful. So wonderful. So thank you again. Is there, oh yes. So before we wrap up, the most important thing that I want to ask you is advice. I love to ask people advice. So if you were to give somebody listening today the best advice that you can give for somebody to up level their business, what would that be?
It would be to have a plan. You need to have a strategy moving forward, figure out what your goals are, and have basically the instructions to get there, because you're going to succeed so much more quickly and be able to overcome, hurdles along the way, because you actually have it written down and you can view it and you can be inspired by it. So yes, always have a plan.
I love it. I love it. I'm a big goal setter kind of chick, so I love that. Oh, beautiful. So how long have you been in business now, Tracey?
I have been in business now for probably 12 years. I actually was a systems analyst for 15 years, took some time off with my kids and decided I needed to get a job, or I needed to find a way to build out a business. And through networking, actually, it's funny, but through networking, I went to a meeting and said, hey, I'm either going back to work or I got to figure out something. And I got hired by 3 people at that meeting and started my virtual assistant business at that point, which has now evolved into, specializing in social media and keywords and websites. But yeah, it's incredible, right? Like that, there you go. Yes. There's the power of community right there.
Yes. And intention. Like, I love that you went there with the intention of like, okay, I got to make something happen. Right. And the universe went, okay, here you go. Here's something. What are you going to do with it? Right. I love it. And and the other part of that I think is so important to mention too is, a lot of times people say, put that intention out but then they're not open to receiving the answers.
True.
Right. We have to be willing to hear and act on what, comes from when we put that stuff out there. So yeah, that's awesome. I love hearing people's birth stories. So I call that when somebody starts a business, how they get going, how it kind of all comes together. I like to refer to that as the birth story. So thank you for sharing that.
I love sharing it. Thank you.
Yeah. So what we're going to do is in the show notes, we will make sure to put all of your social media links and any ways that people can get in touch with you. But to get that report that you were talking about, that keyword marketing secrets report, the address you said was keywordsmarketingsecrets.com. Is that where they go to get that?
Yeah, keywordmarketingsecrets.com, and they can get the report there.
Beautiful. Okay, perfect. And what about an email address if somebody wants to get in touch with you for, to get more information about other things that you could do for them other than that report, and just have a conversation, maybe hire you? Do you have an email address that would work for getting in touch with you?
I do. So Tracey at partneringinsuccess.com, and Tracey's spelt with an EY. So TRACEY. And then we're going to have the links below. So
yeah,
click on that.
Perfect. And I believe you were saying that as a listener of this podcast, that you were willing to offer our listeners a special deal. So what was that?
Oh, that's right. Yes. So kind of to build on the keyword marketing secrets, what I actually do with my clients, and I mentioned this at the beginning, is I work with them to do a strategy session. It's online presence strategy session, because I'm a firm believer that everything you put out there online should bring people back to your website or to your offering or whatever it might be. And you want to always be attracting your ideal audience. So this strategy session is an hour and a half Zoom call where we basically brainstorm, figure out where your audience is hanging out, who your audience is. Are you using the right terms? Because we have all these great terminologies and for what we do, but other people that are searching for us might not know what that is.
Oh yeah.
Right?
I've seen some doozies out there.
I know. It's like, okay, that's a great name, but we actually have to put some clarification in it so that people actually know what it is that you do.
Yeah,
And
exactly.
yeah, so I work with them, and then I take all that, I take research, I go and research, and I spend another 3 hours and collect information and look at competition, and I put together an 8 to 12 page report, just depending on what comes out. Because it's like, once I get going, I go crazy, because I really want people to sort of understand where they are right now,
Mm-hmm.
things that they can do that are easy to, further their visibility and attract more clients to them. And then things that maybe they'll look at doing sort of in the future, but they walk away with a report that they can go back and refer to and work their way through, or they can work with me, later on as well, to help get that stuff done. So.
Wonderful. I love it. Okay, great. And you said that you were going to offer anybody who mentions this podcast, you were going to offer them a discount?
That's right. So it's regular $4.97, but if you mention the podcast, we will give you 10% off. So you're saving
Yay.
about $50 there.
I love it. Thank you so much for that. And you know what's interesting is I just noticed as you were explaining your strategy session is that everything that you were explaining that you do with that is creating that plan that you were talking about, right?
Yeah.
It's a roadmap. It's showing you how to get exactly where you want to go. So I love that, your entire message just comes full circle with that. So those of you who need a plan, Tracey's got you. All right. Well, thank you so much again for coming on and being my second guest in the new format for my podcast this year. And I will make sure to put all of the links. And I've known Tracey for a while personally. We've worked together on a couple of projects, and I can highly recommend her. So if anybody is interested in taking advantage of this strategy session that she has, I would highly recommend that you reach out to her and grab a hold of that. And it's the beginning of 2020. Now's the time to get that plan in place and really grab a hold of what your potential is for 2020 and go for it. So Tracey, thank you for coming on, sharing all of your juicy goodness on us, and we'll see you all another time.
Thank you.